So hello everybody, if you can hear me, just send me a hello. I want to talk about the topic of ME chronic fatigue syndrome and reasons to have hope. 3 reasons to have hope. So I'm going to play a little video that I made and then I'm going to talk about the topic. In 1999 I moved into the property that I'm standing in front of. I had had ME chronic fatigue syndrome for 2 years and I'd just split up with my partner. I moved out of a house that we'd both bought together, so I wasn't feeling great. As it turns out, the house that I moved into, the woman who owned the house, a woman called Edwina, who was a friend of a friend, was a live wire. She was a very social person, so lots of people would come to the house, and so I met a lot of people at a time when I actually couldn't get out of the house. So it actually turned out to be what I needed at that point in time. But at the time that I was living there, I couldn't actually walk to the end of the road, which is not that far. Maybe it takes a couple of minutes to walk to the end of the road. So I thought I would make a short video about why anyone with ME CFS has reason for hope. I remember the day that I felt strong enough to actually get on my bike, and I rode just around this area for about 5 minutes, but it felt absolutely brilliant. And very soon I was going to places like this. So only a person with ME chronic fatigue syndrome would understand how amazing that was to be able to start going to the park, cycling around the park gently, walking sometimes. So I want to talk about 3 reasons to have hope if you have ME chronic fatigue syndrome. Hope's important because if we have hope, then we take positive steps. So the first reason to have hope is that some people do recover. I'm not saying everyone recovers, but some people do. I went from barely being able to walk for 1 minute to being able to play badminton for 3 hours, as I've mentioned to some people already. And when I had ME, it was hard to envisage that I would get to that point because I felt so terrible. And I know lots of people who have recovered, and I think this is a topic that needs to be discussed more. I was looking through an ME magazine recently and I went through from front to back and I didn't see one recovery story. And clients often say to me that they were on Facebook groups and there was very much a doom and gloom attitude. The view was people don't recover if you have ME CFS. Now clearly that's not true because as I've mentioned, some people do recover. So if you are on one of those sites, then I really would recommend you finding other sites where people are exploring recovery. I'm happy to suggest some groups. Sometimes when people say, I did recover from ME, the response from some people is, well, maybe you didn't have ME CFS in the first place. Now, that person isn't a doctor and probably doesn't know much about the person who says they have recovered, and consider that the person who's saying they recovered was diagnosed by a doctor and or consultant. So I want you to consider that if something's not impossible, it's 100% possible. Therefore, if others have recovered, it is possible that you could recover. The second reason to have hope is that there is research that sheds light on what's going on in the body of someone with ME CFS. And what's interesting to me is that there are people who are joining up the dots between what is going on at a micro level, a cellular level, and how this might connect to the bigger picture. So for instance, we may understand what is happening at cellular level. For example, mitochondrial dysfunction has been identified, but the question arises, what is the cause of that? Now, for some people, the answer may be that it's a genetic issue, but what about those other people who were athletes, sports people, or just people who are very active and busy in their life before they got ME, chronic fatigue syndrome? So this is where it's taking a broader view of what causes health and illness is important. The medical approach often treats symptoms rather than looking at underlying causes. Now, there's going to be some situations where that's vital. For instance, if you have meningitis, which is a life-threatening condition. But thanks, Colleen, saying good picture. But there are times where it's really important to get to the root of the problem. I remember someone I know saying they went to the doctor and the doctor diagnosed high blood pressure, and this person was put on medication, and he said that that's all the doctor did in terms of his issue. But I know someone else who had the same issue. They had high blood pressure. The doctor sat down and said, look, I could give you medication, but that's not really a solution. It's just a sticking plaster. Really what needs to be addressed here is the fact that you're overweight, the fact that your diet is poor, and the fact that you're not exercising. And this person actually started just exercising every day during their lunch hour, going up and down the fire escape. And within a few months, they were losing weight, their blood pressure was reducing, and the doctor said, look, we really don't need to be on medication. There's a Stanford University professor called Robert Sapolsky. He's a neurobiologist, and he's written a very interesting book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And I believe this book shares important insights into health and illness. Now, this is a big topic, and I won't cover it in this short video. But if you download my free report, which takes about 15 minutes to read, I talk about his important work and how it might be relevant to people with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome. Often when I talk to clients and ask them the question, what do you think is the cause of you getting sick? Some people actually say, I think I've got a pretty good idea of why I got sick, and they're able to identify a number of factors. Other people say, I actually have no idea why I got sick. But as I talk to them and ask them questions, it becomes clear to me and to them why they got sick. Now, to be fair, when I got sick with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, back in 97, I didn't really understand why I got sick. But with the benefit of hindsight, it's much clearer to me now why I got sick. There were warning signs. It wasn't just a virus. There was more to it than that. There was lifestyle factors. And even when I started to understand those things, I did start to make changes. I made changes to diet. I started taking supplements. And these things helped to some degree, but they didn't get me well. Now, I know that some people have just changed their diet or taken some supplements, and that has been enough to get them back to full health. But obviously that doesn't work for everybody, and if that doesn't work for you, then you have to start looking at what are the other factors. And as I started to understand why I got sick and why I wasn't getting better, it gave me clues and signposts, and I did get more clarity about what I needed to do to get well. And that meant I didn't have to rely on scientists to find solutions or a doctor who, to be honest, I was very lucky. My doctors were always supportive. I had two lovely female doctors. They were always wanting to help as much as they could, but they were really at a loss to know how to help. So this brings me on to the third reason to have hope, which is you have inner resources, which at the moment may be untapped, but you've already maybe experienced times where you feel a bit better and you don't quite understand why you feel better. I go into this in my free report, but often clients say to me, I know that stress and worry is hampering my recovery, but I just don't know how to deal with it. I can't relax. And what I'd say to those people is, actually, you can learn. Other people say to me, well, actually, I don't really think I'm experiencing much stress. But again, as I talk to them, it becomes clear to them that actually they are experiencing stress that they weren't aware of. Every week I do 3 free sessions. They're completely free. There's no obligation to work with me. It's my little way of giving something back, because when I had ME, there were people who helped me for free. And I teach people a very simple relaxation exercise, and we do it for 1 minute. The majority of people say that actually just in doing it for 1 minute they feel more relaxed. A few people say, actually, I don't feel more relaxed, my head was jumping round. And so I say to these people, you can develop mastery of your mind, and it just takes practice. But when you develop that mastery, it will have an impact on your well-being. I do offer a free relaxation audio where I share that exercise, and I'll put the link below this video. So, they are 3 reasons to have hope. If you've got any questions, fire away. So those 3 reasons are: number 1, some people do recover. Number 2, there is research that is helping us develop an understanding of what's going on in ME/CFS. And number 3 is you have internal resources that I believe can help you make progress. So you may be able to think of other reasons to have hope. So check out my free report. Do join my Facebook group if you'd like to. If you've got any questions, feel free to send them to me. Any questions from anyone watching? I've got Colleen and Angie. Just give you a moment to ask any questions if you've got any questions. But if not, that's fine. You can always send them later. Can you talk about one inner resource? Yeah, that's a good question, Colleen. We all have the ability to have a thought that is unhelpful or a thought that is helpful. And for a lot of people, including me, before I learned how to harness the power of my mind, I didn't realise I had a choice. And the truth is, in every moment we do have a choice. A little example of that is people get stuck in traffic. How often do they respond in a sort of automatic way? They generate stress and frustration, even though that doesn't help. And actually, this would be a really great moment to recognise that we do have a choice. How often do people say, I wish I just had a few minutes to sit out and look out the window and watch the clouds? Well, now is a perfect opportunity. And I believe the more we practice that, recognising that we do have a choice, the more we develop mastery over our mind, so that it's not our mind that's in control of us, but we're actually in control of our mind. And I'm talking as someone who used to generate a lot of anxiety, social anxiety in certain situations, and I learned how to stop being a genius at generating anxiety. What can you say to those who are severely affected and bedbound? Thanks, Colin. Another great question. So a couple of things. Number 1 is to practice relaxing your mind. I remember when I spent a lot of time in the first 3 years of having ME being in bed. And what I realised is that I spent a lot of time lying there, scaring the crap out of myself, to put it bluntly. So I'd be running all these thoughts in my head that would be really unhelpful. And this just means that I was activating the fight or flight response. And again, if you have read my report, I talk about the impact of this. It affects our energy production and storage. It affects our ability to problem solve. We tend to be more irrational when we are in fight or flight mode. We tend to be more reactive. It affects our sleep quality. It also affects our immune function. Our immune function is suppressed, and it affects our digestion. So over time I learned that I actually had to focus my mind on calming things down. And I had a very interesting experience once when I had cranial osteopathy. I realised I was lying there and my mind was racing, and I suddenly thought, actually, I could just take a deep breath and just calm things down and just say to myself, look, everything's fine, I can relax right now. And the practitioner said, wow. And I said, what? And she said, something's really just shifted in your body, just literally in a split second. And the same thing happened the following week. I suddenly realised I'd been sitting there with my mind going all over the place for about 10 minutes. And again, I just calmed my mind down, just allowed myself to relax. And the practitioner said the same thing. Wow, I'm just experiencing this shift in your energy. I don't fully understand cranial osteopathy, but I know from the experiences that I've had that it's pretty powerful stuff. So that's the other thing I would say if you have, if you are severely bedbound, is touching on from what I've just been talking about, is to use your mind in a creative way. So visualize yourself doing things like, it might just be walking to the bathroom, because I know when I was bedbound, I'd think, oh, I need to go to the loo, and then my next thought would be, is this going to make me feel worse? So I would actually, when I started to learn that, I could generate more helpful thoughts, I would visualize myself walking to the bathroom in a calm, relaxed way. I would focus on getting myself calm and relaxed first, and then I would visualize that. And visualization is really powerful. There is research that shows that just by visualizing, exercising your muscles get stronger. That's fascinating. That's completely nuts, but it's true. If you visualize exercising your muscles get stronger. So use that. Imagine if a question I'd put to you is, how much time do you spend lying in bed thinking really, really unhelpful, scary thoughts? If that's the case, practice your relaxation. There's loads of stuff on YouTube. As I say, you can access my free relaxation audios. Practice meditation, whatever it is that works for you, and use those techniques that I've just mentioned. So let's have a look. More questions. Is the stress response always as a result of thoughts, or can it be deeper in the body? Absolutely, the stress response isn't just a result of your thoughts. So if you have a health condition like ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, that can put your body in a state of fight or flight, activating the sympathetic nervous system response. So absolutely, the stress response isn't just impacted by our thoughts. There are other things that are impacting. It might be you've eaten some food and that's caused you, some discomfort or a negative response, and that might be activating the fight or flight response. So I hope that answers your question, Angie. But the work I do is really focusing on helping people influence what they can influence. So let's see. Do you think that we all have the same illness? That's a question from Carol. No, I think ME is an umbrella term, and there may be a number of different conditions going on for that person. So for instance, for me, a doctor identified candida, leaky gut syndrome, and adrenal fatigue. Now, other people might have a different combination of factors. But what I think can be a common factor is what was going on in someone's life before they got sick. I think that everyone has a story, and my story is going to be different from other people's. But I've been working with people with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, for the last 12 years, and everyone I've talked to uncovers their story. They might not be aware of their story of why they got sick, but as we talk, it becomes clearer to them. So Colleen says, pain in my experience is a huge fear trigger. What do you recommend for pain when it flares? So another great question. Couple of things I would suggest, and I've been there. It's so easy when we are experiencing pain to focus on it. I know from my experience that I focus on it and then I start having conversations about it. And therefore the challenge is to divert our attention somewhere else. So I remember reading a story about Aborigines who, when they're in the outback and they're experiencing pain, maybe they've eaten a dodgy bit of meat, one of the things they do is they focus their attention elsewhere. And this takes effort. And, so if they might focus their attention on their little toe on their right foot, and they put all their attention there. And again, you might use visualization. You might imagine what colour you associate with that part of the body, and just imagine that colour spreading slowly through your body, up your leg, down your other leg, into your body, into your head and neck and shoulders, and into your arms. And a couple of other ideas. One client said to me that she was in bed for 14 years, and when she experienced muscle pain, she would imagine little pixies tickling her muscles, and that would make her laugh and it would make her relax. Another client, I remember she travelled all the way from South London to North London to do the training, and she said on the first day I got back on the train and I experienced pain in my muscles in my back. And so I actually closed my eyes, I sat on the train and I imagined my friend massaging me. And that helped me relax. And I remember actually one time I was actually working. It was when I just started working and I wasn't robust, and working as a practitioner was pretty demanding. And I remember waking up one morning, I think it was on the second day of the training, and I felt really fluey. And so I actually put a cushion under my stomach. I lay stomach down and I imagined someone giving me acupuncture. I've had acupuncture in the past and I have found it helpful. And I imagined someone giving me acupuncture, putting loads of needles in my back. And I just allowed myself to really inhabit that experience. And within about 10 minutes, I felt much more relaxed and I felt much better. So anyway, there's just a few ideas. I hope that's given you some food for thought. And I'm really interested in your ideas as well. If you've got a suggestion about how you might deal with these things from you, because I know a lot of people have got a lot of experience having tried lots of different treatments. So do share your thoughts. So let's have a look. Can I do a brief relaxation meditation here for a few minutes? Yeah, I can do that. Let's do that. So, is everyone up for that? Before I do that, I'll just respond to Carol's point. My mind gets tired doing visualization, I think, so changing thoughts can feel too much. Does this make sense? Yeah, sometimes, we do need to just let go. I remember there were times where I felt so tired that I couldn't think a thought. I literally couldn't. It's almost like I didn't have the energy to have a thought. Now, if that's the case, then you've got no reason to be having unhelpful thoughts. And if that's the case, I really suggest you just surrender and just let your mind just relax, just go wherever it wants to go, as long as you just make sure it's not going to an unhelpful place. Okay, so I'm getting lots of yeses here, so that's great. Hello, Angie, Carol, Colleen, anyone else? Marion, let's just see if there's anyone in here I haven't said hello to. Nice to see it. Marion, if you've got any questions, fire away. But what I'm going to do now then is to do a very short relaxation exercise. We'll do it maybe for a couple of minutes. So what I'd like you to do is to close your eyes, and I'm going to share with you my favourite little really simple technique. So what we're going to do, Carol's saying she's expecting Tesco and the Boiler Man, so meditation. Well, I'm wondering if you can join in and just listen, allow yourself to listen out for the Tesco and the Boilerman, but whatever works for you, Carol. All right, but I'm going to start this little exercise now. Let me explain it first. So what I want you to do is close your eyes, and if it's comfortable, just put your hands on your lap, and I want you to focus on the little finger on one of your hands. And what you're going to do is, not yet, but in a minute, as you breathe in, you're going to say a word to yourself. It could be any word at all. It could be peace, calm, love, trust, or any other word you choose. And then as you breathe out, you're going to say another word. Again, could be any of those words. Make sure it's a different word. Or as you breathe in and out, you can just say a simple phrase. It might be, I choose to be calm. Or whatever it is, I am peaceful. Just choose whatever works for you. And then you're going to go to your next finger and you're going to do the same thing. As you breathe out, you're either going to say that word or start saying that phrase. As you breathe out, you're going to say that other word. Then you go to the next finger, then your thumb. And then you go back to your little finger. And if at any time you lose your place or you catch yourself thinking about something, just let go of that thought and go back to the little exercise. So I hope that makes sense. Let's do that for 2 minutes. I'll set the timer and I'm going to do it as well. I'm going to close my eyes, as nutty as that looks, and we're just going to do this exercise starting from now. Okay, so that is 2 minutes. So how did you find doing that exercise? What difference did you notice from doing it just for 2 minutes? No response. Maybe you've all fallen asleep. Okay, well, you can post your response. It'd be interesting to hear how you found doing that exercise. Colleen's saying it's getting easier. That's excellent. Practice is the key. You know, it's like I remember going to meditation class for the first time and finding it really challenging. But with practice, Marian's saying very relaxing. Isn't that interesting that we can actually generate feelings of relaxation just in a minute or two? Angie's saying obviously no way to focus on that anxiety. That's exactly right. You know, and this is the trick. When we learn to put our mind in a certain direction, then it means we are exercising our choice. So Annette says, thank you, very peaceful. Angie says, relaxing. You are welcome. So thanks very much. Any final questions before we finish? Now's your last chance. I will respond to any questions people post under this video. No? Okay, so thanks very much for watching and wishing you great health. Think about what you can do on a daily basis, on a moment by moment basis, just to nurture yourself, okay? You are welcome, Colleen. Nice to do it all together. It is nice, actually, isn't it? I know that Joe Cleary does regular meditation sessions, but yeah, maybe if there's interest, we could do this again, because actually I do think that it is powerful when you meditate with other people, even if they're in different parts of the world. I know we've got people from Canada here. Don't know where you're from, Annette. Carol, I think, is from the UK. Angie's from the UK. Marion, not sure where you're from. But you are very welcome. Thanks for joining in. This makes it more interesting for me. And I will be doing Great to Meditate together. Yes, let's do it again. All right, so we will do it again. Maybe I'll make it a regular thing, and I'll try and make it friendly for people in other parts of the world. Yeah, I will be doing another Facebook Live next week, so look out for that. I'll keep the topic under my hat for now. But anyway, thanks for coming, and let's do this again soon. Bye for now.